have you ever wondered if having one autoimmune condition kind of puts you on the fast track to getting another? Well, today we're diving deep into the hidden connection between something you see every day, gluten, and the really complex world of autoimmunity. We're going to explore why your immune system might get confused, and more importantly, how you can become the lead detective in your own health story. So let's jump right in. So here's the big question, right? If you're already dealing with an autoimmune disease, say like type 1 diabetes, does that automatically put you at a higher risk for others? The evidence, well, it points to a pretty clear yes. But the real question is why? Why does this happen? That's the mystery we're going to unravel together.
The best way to think about it is like an autoimmune domino effect. Once that first domino, your first diagnosis, gets tipped over, it can set off a whole chain reaction. So what's knocking over the other dominoes? Well, it all starts with an immune system that's already learned how to make one mistake, which, you guessed it, makes it way more likely to make others.
Think of it like this. When your immune system has a condition like type 1, it's basically on high alert 24/7. It's been trained to see a part of your own body, in this case the pancreas, as a dangerous intruder. This constant state of vigilance, this readiness to attack, makes it so much easier for it to misidentify other friendly parts of your body as enemies too. And that's how you see these conditions start to cluster together.
And let's be really clear about something. The goal of figuring this all out isn't to add a bunch of new restrictions to your life. Not at all. It's about finding ways to calm down an overworked, agitated immune system. It's about lowering its stress level so it can just get a chance to chill out and rest.
So if our goal is to calm the immune system, we have to ask, what's getting it all worked up in the first place? Our first major clue, our prime suspect, if you will, is a protein we all know, gluten. And it has a very specific gateway into our body that runs right through our gut. To understand how gluten plays a role, we first have to talk about something called gut permeability. Imagine your gut lining is like a super high-tech security gate. It's designed to let all the good stuff, like nutrients, pass through, while keeping all the potential threats out. But what happens when that gate gets a little, well, leaky? Suddenly, things like undigested food particles can slip past security and get into your bloodstream, and believe me, that immediately triggers a system-wide alarm. And here's the wild part. Here's exactly how gluten can pry that gate open. A piece of the gluten protein called gliadin shows up in the gut. Its arrival triggers the release of another protein called zonulin. Now, zonulin is basically the body's natural gatekeeper. It's the bouncer that controls the seals or tight junctions between your gut cells. When zonulin gets activated, those seals loosen up. The gate is now open. This allows stuff that shouldn't be there to cross into the bloodstream, which of course sounds the alarm and kicks off inflammation.
Okay, so gluten can cause inflammation. We've got that. But how in the world does that inflammation lead to a brand new autoimmune attack on a totally different part of the body? This brings us to the next fascinating piece of our puzzle. A biological mix-up that is literally a case of mistaken identity. The scientific term for this is molecular mimicry, and it's actually a pretty elegant idea. Your immune system creates these little antibody soldiers to go fight a foreign invader like the gliadin protein from gluten. But what if that protein structure looks almost identical to some of your own body's tissues? Well, those same antibodies can get confused and start attacking your own cells completely by mistake. And this is where the case of mistaken identity gets incredibly specific. It turns out the molecular structure of that gliadin protein looks suspiciously similar to the tissue of your thyroid gland. So for someone who's genetically susceptible, the immune system makes antibodies to go fight gluten, but those same antibodies can end up attacking the thyroid by mistake. This is one of the ways conditions like Hashimoto's, an autoimmune attack on the thyroid, can get started. Now, I know this might sound like just a cool theory, but it's not. There is some really compelling clinical data that shows this connection playing out in the real world, especially when you look at the link between type 1 diabetes and celiac disease. Just look at this number. 10%. Let that sink in for a second. What do you think this represents? Because this single number tells a really powerful story. Okay, so that 10%, that's the percentage of people with type 1 diabetes who also have celiac disease. Now, in the general population, that number is only about 1%. That is a massive, tenfold increase in risk, and it's no coincidence. A huge reason for this is that both conditions often share the exact same genetic markers, specifically HLA-DQ2 and DQ8, which kind of prime the body for this kind of response. And listen,
This is a really critical point. You do not need to have a formal celiac diagnosis for gluten to be causing issues. Even what's called a non-celiac gluten sensitivity can create this low-grade constant inflammation. For someone with type 1 diabetes, this inflammatory background noise can make blood sugar control that much harder, and it just adds another layer of stress to an immune system that's already working overtime.
So all of this leads us to the most practical question of all. What can you actually do with this information? Well, this is where we get to shift gears from just understanding the problem to actually exploring a solution, and you can think of it as your own personal health experiment. The most important thing here is your mindset. This is about curiosity, not restriction. We're not talking about following some rigid, punishing rule. We're talking about you becoming a detective for your own body, gathering your own data to see how you feel and how your body responds.
And the experiment itself is really straightforward. For about 4 to 6 weeks, you completely, 100% remove gluten from your diet. That's it. Your main job during this time is just to observe. Pay attention. How's your energy? Your digestion? How stable are your blood sugars? Then, at the end of the trial, you can even chat with your doctor about retesting some of those key markers. The whole point is to arm yourself with real, personalized data.
This whole process puts the power squarely back in your hands, because ultimately the evidence comes from you, not from anyone else. You are, and always will be, the #1 expert on your own body. This experiment is just a tool to help you listen more closely to what it's been trying to tell you.
You know, maybe the best way to wrap all this up is with an analogy. Think of autoimmune health like tending a campfire. The condition itself is like a fire that's always glowing. Your job is to keep it small and contained, right? You don't want to throw a bunch of sparks on it. Well, for some people, gluten acts just like one of those sparks. By removing it, you're not putting the fire out completely, but you are taking away the sparks. You're giving your immune system that much-needed chance to rest and recover. And that simple act can be an incredibly powerful step toward taking back control of your health.